Just like our guests today, this beer is all class. Limited release 30 is a hazy IPA brewed with Equinox, Nectaron, and Citra hop varieties, showcasing juicy citrus and tropical fruit characters with a smooth and rounded mouthfeel. A touch of the finer side, if you will. Nice.
Welcome back to the Design Principles podcast. Today, we're lucky enough to be joined by two exceptionally talented architects doing incredible work across New Zealand, Tom Seear-Budd and James Ross, founders of Seear-Budd Ross. We explore building a business, designing architecture, crafting furniture and photography, and how Tom and James bring the same intentional, design-led approach to all of these disciplines, creating work that feels both refined and impactful. I especially enjoyed hearing their discussion around conducting a site investigation and planning spatial layouts. Hope you guys enjoy the pod. We might as well just crack on in anyway. So yeah, welcome to the pod. I don't know, have you guys ever done a podcast of any description before?
We have. We did one what felt like 30 seconds into starting the business, which was really interesting. That was for was that for the design files? Oh no, for Habitus actually. But yeah, we were very fresh. And that's before COVID, so it was kind of
that was a while ago.
Yeah. Well, you guys have come a long way. I suspect you've got a lot more to talk about this time around.
Definitely.
Yeah. Listen to lots of podcasts as well.
Yeah.
Quite a few good architecture ones out there.
What's your go-to?
Yeah.
As well as the Design Principles pod.
Design Principles, obviously, number one. Thought you'd say that.
Well, probably my favourite would be the Dave Sharp.
Yeah.
Video Sharp.
Yeah.
He's clinical way.
Yeah. No, he's good.
Yeah, back to back.
We come and go. We listen to a little bit of Business of Architecture UK as well.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you have to take a little bit of almost interpret the advice for our own context. Because,
Quite different over there. Whereas
Yeah.
at least Australia's a lot more relevant, I guess, for us, isn't it? And it's cool listening to all the firms. He does a good job. I don't know how, but he really he interviews some amazing architects and designers. So kudos to him for that.
Yeah, it's awesome how he's branched into the UK with his UK series. Been enjoying that lately.
Yeah.
I found after a while, some have like really good information in there, but everyone sort of crowds around things that have impacted them over time. But after you'd listened to quite a few, you could start to get quite a balanced idea around all these sort of marketing ideas and things. So it's a super helpful thing to have that little resource in the background. Because marketing for architecture is a strange topic.
I think marketing for architects is quite interesting because there's almost like some organic ways that just by doing your work, you create your own marketing, which is probably like the default for a lot of architects. So it's like publication and awards, generates a bit of, and I guess Instagram as well generates a bit of attention. But I think that's quite an interesting question, is like whether there's other things you do beyond those kind of traditional like methods, I guess.
What have you found you guys doing, or strategies you've had a crack at? Or
Do we want to just jump in with a quick overview before we dive straight into deep marketing strategies? No, we'd love to hear a bit more about, Seear-Budd Ross and who you guys are and goals and ambitions.
Yeah. So we James and I started the practice almost 6 years ago. And we both came from a commercial architecture background, and so both working for a relatively large practice, and wanted to craft our own journey and do some work that was kind of a bit more pared back, refined, kind of have a bit more autonomy as well in our own careers. And it's basically been the two of us the whole time. We've recently taken on another staff member, Nina, who has come over from the UK. So she brings a whole lot of knowledge from Europe, which is really good. And mainly working on residential projects around the country and a little bit of commercial. But probably 80% resi one-off houses.
quite high end though. I would say.
Yeah, it hasn't all been high end. Like we've done everything from bathroom renos. Like we went through a period where we're kind of doing the building consent drawings for some interior designers that couldn't file them. So we're doing a bathroom reno. But now sort of like houses that are definitely up there and kind of scale.
And is that mainly because the stuff that you guys want to be designing, which is quite minimal, clean, super clean, probably like the cleanest architecture, I would say, in the residential realm for sure. Is it because you like the stuff that you guys want to be designing kind of leads you towards that higher end realm, or do you try and like just bring that into any work you do?
I think I think it was Claire Cousins. I heard her talk about in an interview that she quite likes doing small scale projects because they have a fast turnaround and they are almost like a good way to explore ideas, and they're quite satisfying just because they're quick and it might take a year or 2 years to get go from start to finish. Like, so I guess an example would be like an interior fit out. So like we definitely don't say no to small projects, but probably what we find like the trend is that people that want to work with us do have like quite big projects, and so if someone has a small alteration, they probably in general they don't want to spend much of their allocated budget on design fees, would be just our experience. But if someone did want to pay basically us for our time to work on a small project, would definitely be interested in it. But it does probably mean, the percentage fees are quite high in the context of their budget.
I think it's also like throughout, like we've learned we've kind of learned that designing what feels like a simple building is actually quite expensive.
And hard to achieve, I can imagine.
Yeah, like if you want to, you hide all your flashings and do multiple layers of cleaning and also, all that sort of stuff. Like it's a expensive way to build. So that naturally kind of shuts you off from an end of the market. Like we're working on a renovation in Kandala at the moment, which is like it's kind of expensive for what it is, but it's not like the overall project cost isn't like some of the new houses, but it has the same ideas as the new houses in terms of light and proportion and materiality, flow and choreography. We kind of apply the same principles to whatever we're working on. But yeah, as James said, it's just the kind of market is naturally coming to us larger and higher end.
Is it worth digging into some of those design ideas and philosophies? So like what are you guys, I guess, in search of through your architecture? What are you digging for with these light and proportions?
Yeah, we probably differ slightly between James and I, but there's overlap. But like for me, like proportion is really important, and like creating a calm environment, so less materials and materials that like a fairly low contrast with each other. So like you're creating quite a harmonious space. But then it's layering an atmosphere, like certain spaces kind of demand a different atmosphere. So it's not necessarily all like bright and light all the time. But it's probably like a clarity that you're kind of searching for.
Yeah, I guess like audio projects I see sort of have like a good sort of mass, good weight to them. Is that something that you kind of pushing for in projects? This whole face will have
horizontal.
Big horizontal elements. It's kind of like a simplified prairie house, some of them. Massive horizontal elements, but then being careful not to puncture that with anything elemental forces.
Yeah. There probably is. Say that's been like an ongoing exploration for us is something as simple as openings in a building. So like doors and doors and glazing. In terms of like interior experience, you don't always need 5 meters of glass to have, like to celebrate a view. You might only need 4 meters, and then it can be actually quite nice to have a solid 3 meters of wall adjacent that, and that's where your art goes, or there's that allows for interior furnishing and things like that. So I think, and also like considering like the way light comes into the building, and how you want that interior atmosphere to feel. That's like there might be something in that for the way we maybe a language that starts to become apparent in the buildings we do.
A lot of your windows are sort of full height, so you get like these monoliths, what's Stonehenge style massings, and then like a roof.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's a poor secular pavilion.
Yeah.
Which works beautifully with like when you chuck that's rammed earth or something. You start to create a pretty beautiful building pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think also touching on what Thomas said earlier, like the designing so that we can assemble the buildings in the way we want. So like say a wall has more mass, and that might like allow us to differentiate between like the glazing that's adjacent. Quite often we like search for ways to like reduce the amount of like window frame that you can see.
Yeah.
So it does become like just quite elemental. So it might be like a wall and then glass. So like for example, we don't do bifold doors that often because like so much of the like
quite meaty profiles.
Yeah. And it's like and fixed glazing is something we're quite interested in. Where like not every piece of glazing needs to open. Like it could actually be 80% of a glass wall is fixed, and then might have a pivot.
Yeah, and in those scenarios, do you start like playing with window profiles and like you kind of simplify that down to like glued-in systems? You bring that elemental nature right down to the finer details.
Yeah.
And when you guys are working, do you typically kind of just like pick up a project and, I don't know, maybe like one person's working on one and someone else is leading another, or do you have like quite a collaborative work style?
It's led by James and I. So we'll set the direction of every project. So it will be that we're kind of essentially designing the bones of it. And then now with Nina, like Nina's having input like fairly early on as a design reviewer. But it's like the direction is definitely being set from James and I, which we talked about quite a bit prior to having a staff member, that's the pathway that we wanted to follow for consistency. And also it's like that's part of the reason why we started the practice was we wanted to design buildings. And so it's important that we're both touching it, and it's not like James's projects and my projects.
Yeah, Gerard and I collaborate on, well, quite a bit actually, especially recently. But it's always funny at the start of the project. It's like, okay, cool, like this is everyone knows what's what, like this is the scheme. And then we go away, test some stuff individually and come back and we've just got, completely different concepts for the same thing. And then we kind of, slowly bring it together over time. Is that kind of similar for you guys, or do you do like a lot of like initial sketching together, or what's your design process?
I think like the last thing we've been designing, we actually spent quite a long time on site. Like it might have been, we were there for 2 days and spent like a good chunk of time on the site and actually like walking through the choreography that we could imagine, and then sketching live. So
that's cool.
Like really, so like really using the site to inform the
draw
kind of
it out.
Yeah, and that kind of like starts to form your bubble diagrams. And so like we're doing that together, and then we might both go away and sketch a plan each that reflects that, but they're probably relatively similar. And then it's just kind of toing and froing and finessing. But yeah, we're trying to spend more time sketching before we get into software.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so that's like perspectives and, elevations and whatever you can.
Probably quite a lot of planning, even just to spell it out in terms of what we might be doing. It's when we're on site, where the question might be, where's the natural point of entry to the house? And then something we do quite often is at the point of entry, divides the house into a public and a private part of the house. And for the public part, we try and think about how the entry can make it intuitive to go to the public part of the house, and then the private part is more likely to be obvious only to people that live there every day. When Thomas and I go away and start sketching, we might have already established that aspect of the bubble diagram. It's like, here's where we're going to do the living, and here's where you're going to, rest.
And view, I guess, like view shafts and lighting play into that quite a bit.
And it's like giving someone a taste of, say there's an amazing view, giving someone a taste of the view, like it might be a little sliver, and then you're turning them 180 degrees away from it. And then I guess a lot of Japanese architecture have the same principles where you're it feels like you're really dragging out the entry experience. Is so different to a lot of Kiwi homes where you just open the front door and you're in.
There's you're facing like a white wall or something.
Yeah.
A blank wall and some shoes.
It does, it's all part of the experience.
And do you guys do much like model making at that stage or anything as part of your process? Or do you kind of take that and then bring it into software of some description and start just kind of adding those layers?
Yeah, quite a bit of so we use ArchiCAD, which I guess Thomas and I have both been in it for 10 years, so it's quite easy software for us to use. And yeah, I guess it's just as you know, the detail progressively builds up. But the early concept modeling is quite elemental, and we are trying to think about even in the last year to 6 months, we've been trying to think a lot more about how we're bringing light, and it's almost like bringing light into the building, but then also creating spaces that have more moodiness and darkness, I guess. But yeah, it's probably our process would be get the plan good, test how that plan is going, and come back to the plan to see if there's certain moves that aren't kind of working that well in 3D, but they are in plan, and it's that constant refinement of trying to generate ultimately a building. But it's I feel like sometimes there can be a conflict, and we're planning is working well, but the actual 3D and the experience is good, and so we spend quite a bit of time going back and forth, just trying to refine and iterate and ticking as many boxes as we can.
Do you kind of have, I guess, from spending so much time on site, does that kind of give you a feeling for what kind of materials would work well with the project at that kind of early stage, or is that kind of developed as well a little bit over time, or do you just kind of stick with stuff that you've potentially used in the past that works? Or
that's quite a topical question, Ben. We're still trying to find out our way with the materiality. It's for me, designing buildings that have a relationship to their context is really important. So I'm not sure if this is the same for you guys, but you'll have your own reference points, and then you'll have client reference points for what they like, and then you've got the site and what feels appropriate, and then kind of natural materials on hand. So you're trying to find the overlap of all of those things. Typically, we have a pretty good idea of what sort of material we're looking at early on, and then it's about refining it. I think if you're in a stage where you've got a design and you're trying to work out what to clad it in, I feel like you're in a slightly dangerous position, because the materiality should be a fundamental aspect of the design.
I find that I always get kind of bored with what I've been using. Perhaps I've used it a few too many times, I don't know. And so just constantly trying to find, it doesn't even need to be that different, just something that I don't know how to explain it when something's not quite ticking the boxes anymore. But yeah, you're not sure what to switch to, I guess.
What are you thinking of?
No, just I'm just in general, the use of, for example, timber or brick or anything that's super common without the
Corrugate.
iron. I just find you always come back to those 3 or 4 or whatever, and then it's kind of hard to find something, and that kind of leads your design a little bit too much, because the details perhaps a little bit too well. So it's always really interesting to hear people that use a new, unique, clean, nice, different materials?
Expenny materials.
Well, that's the thing, like if you guys were to design your own house for yourselves, I guess like would you be using a lot of the same details? And let's just assume that we're like, 5 years into business or something. We're not not down the track when I'm sure you guys will be very very successful. But you know what I mean, like first homeowner status. Would you kind of be designing a house using a lot of your details, or do you think that you could find a way to kind of refine a lot of them to be used at that level?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think maybe not the.
Can you use an expensive material cheap as opposed to a cheap
maybe
material to
I
look
guess
expensive?
it's more the design anyway.
Yeah, I think the base principles of like good proportions, like well balanced rooms and volume. Those things don't necessarily have to be super expensive.
Yeah,
but then it's another thing to clear everything in stone is a different story. But so it'd be the same, taking the same principles, or like not having skirtings and having full height doors, like that sort of thing. So yeah, taking like a few cues, but not being able to afford the version.
full shebang.
Well, it is. If everyone has a budget constraint at some point. Like, I think a big part of architecture is if people are like, oh, we can't do that because it's too expensive. But in my mind, there's a million ways of achieving, let's say, these monolithic Stonehenge-like qualities with a range of materials. Kind of like the idea of like a big, in my head, I'm just imagining like one of those mega monolith buildings, but all in like everything's galv corrugate. Loving simple galv corrugate these days.
Yeah.
Beautiful New Zealand contextualized material.
Yeah.
Like Glenn Murcutt using simple materials in beautiful ways. I think that's always been the strength of architecture, being able to play your own game at different financial scales.
Yeah, that's right.
In a world where design speaks louder than words, what story does your space tell? At Ortex Acoustics, they believe great design is more than aesthetics. Every product they create strikes a perfect balance between form, function, and sustainability, made to enhance how a space sounds, looks, and feels. From using recycled materials to pioneering carbon-negative wool, their commitment is to help you shape environments that inspire people and respect the planet. Explore the future of acoustics design at ortexacoustics.co.nz.
One thing I've always been impressed with you guys is like just that super cleanliness, going back to the form and the material. How have you gone about kind of learning how to detail some of that stuff? Because I mean, like I've spent a lot of my good part of my life with details, and man, some of that stuff just blows my mind. I have no idea how you do it or how you'd even go about doing it. So well done there. But what's the kind of strategy when you come across something that perhaps is a little bit unique, or you really want to like keep, because it's like such a big part of the design? How do you kind of work through those details and keep them the right intention, I guess?
Thanks, Ben. That's very nice thing to say. I guess when we're like the assembly of the buildings, well, I guess it contributes so much to the atmosphere, and sometimes it could even be like the absence of complexity. Just the building feeling really simple, but accomplishing that can be quite challenging.
Definitely, yeah.
Recently, we had I've probably got two examples of like just something that we put a lot of effort into, but then maybe not that many people would care about, but like perhaps most people that go into the building would like appreciate it. So like we did a hair salon that's got a 100 mil by 100 mil tile across the whole flooring, but then it's like when you factor in the grout joint, it's like a module of 105 by 105. We basically set out the whole, like every element in the building to that floor tile module. And I think for the builder on site, it was probably a little bit frustrating. We told them, it was almost like we gave them the license so that like they might have had 30 millimeters or 40 millimeters of margin to shift things around so that they aligned with modules. But it was like, just like putting that level of effort into something that was like, because it was such a simple like interior fit out, that almost was the design. Like you could definitely argue there's some other things we did in there as well, but it was like just like, I guess I'd call it like a rigor and an attention to detail that I'd say made the project better. But like the second example is like we had on this small-ish renovation in Kandala, we were talking to Nina about like doing a 250 millimeter wide floorboard versus a 300 millimeter wide floorboard, and then working out what alignments we're trying to accomplish in terms of how a full module of the floorboard like aligns with walls and things like that. And like the island for the kitchen, like, is that a meter because it's, forward 250, like that kind of stuff. And it was, we just asked Nina, is like, is this like, are we being like, is this crazy to you that we're putting like this effort in? She said that she's seen it before at some of the European practices that she's worked at. But yeah, like Thomas, would you have, like, it's not just alignments that we're focusing on, but it is.
Oh, that's awesome though. I love to hear it. I can imagine the floor guy installer was pretty stoked with that, but super cool though. Super cool.
Yeah, and even just like the floorboard example is a good one, because the like it would be an easy pathway for us is just to specify it's 250, right? But then us second guessing whether it's 250 or 300 is basically we're trying to work out if the space can handle a 300 like proportionally, or if it would feel weird because it's just too wide. And so that's also what's going through our heads in that conversation. So yeah, what's going to feel right, or is it going to feel jarring? Yeah. So yeah, alignments and spacing and like volume, like we kind of interrogate quite a bit. Like this overall proportion of a room gets interrogated quite a bit. And then the details, like as you know, again, it's like it is iteration, like and working with the builders to iterate the detail. And as long as you're kind of communicating what the intent is and you've got good builders, then like it is good engineers, like it's a
Do you use like any kind of like early contractor involvement and that sort of thing just to like help with some of those tricky details as well? Or
we've had quite a few clients who've had builders, either they've been the builder or builder as family members. So through the nature it is early contractor engagement.
Yeah.
Like
Eastbourne.
Eastbourne House was for the builder. Like he was the builder.
He's a really good builder. By the looks of that house, like it's super crispy.
Yeah.
So he's done a good job.
Yeah, like the one was like where all the walls are full boards. With like a 2 mil gap. But I think early contractor engagement I'm a fan of generally, because it like you're just getting kind of early buy-in. You're not having a tender. Yeah. Everyone, like you're kind of, the builder's such an important part of the team, and like the engineers and the if we've got services engineers or some other consultants, like you're kind of rounding out that team early on and all working towards the same goal, which is good.
Yeah. And I can imagine you apply the same or similar principles to a lot of your like internal joinery, for example. Your houses really seem like almost like a bit of furniture where it's kind of like designed, the inside is kind of in such like, I don't know, well-balanced, harmonious, environment that it kind of feels like it's just one object as opposed to, I don't know, perhaps something with like an interior designer or something. I don't know. Yeah. So I guess you must kind of put a lot of effort into a lot of your internal joinery and the actual fit out as well.
Yeah. And same ideas of rhythm and even spacing of cabinetry doors, and like on that same project that James was talking about with the floorboards, or trying to work out if like we're basically like saying throughout the house that you don't have to have a high toe kick. Like say you've got a whole bank of joinery and the doors are 10 mils off the ground, or are they 20 mils off the ground, and then what's your toe kick in the kitchen? Like trying to bring that down as minimal as you could without meaning you stub your toe every time you open a drawer. So kind of diving into all of those things.
It's quite satisfying. I wonder if we can circle all the way back right to the beginning. Interested to know at what stage you guys were working, and then like you guys found a project together or something, like the first client that sort of launched it together, and like, was that sort of the case? And what were your initial projects that kicked you off?
At my end, I was like, I think I was maybe like 31 or 32 when we started.
Bring chicken.
And I was like, if you want to start an architecture practice, it's probably harder to do when you're 40. Even though, I was just like, it's a good time to start in terms of like time of life, but it wasn't a great time to start in terms of like, wouldn't actually have projects.
So you started without a project?
We started with maybe like a month's worth of work ahead of us.
That's a lot of work, and
With no pay.
yeah, so like 2 weeks work.
And I think it was, but like, so there was that in the background. It's like, it makes sense to start an architecture practice. And probably that was my thing, was like, I think architecture is like quite a cool profession if it's your own business.
Yeah.
It's like a different profession to working for someone else, I'd say. But like, there's, downsides of that in terms of, managing pressure and responsibility and whatnot. So Thomas and I, we did a cafe at Wellington Airport together as like a private job when we were at our previous firm. That was like, probably like some of the ideas we're interested in, we were testing there. It's almost like just being aspirational in terms of what we're trying to do on the project and what we're like signing up for. So like on that one, we wanted to do aged brass, but like no one was going to make it like easy for us to do aged brass. So we ended up aging the brass ourselves across the whole project.
Nice. Like in your garage or something?
And
How long did that take?
Out on the back lawn?
I think we probably did like a week's worth of like free labor to make it happen.
Nice. That's what it's about, man.
Yeah. And it's like when we walk past there now, it's like check in to see how it's patinaing. Actually, like, pretty happy.
Good aging going on?
Yeah, well, so we actually like accelerated the aging, but what's kind of interesting is like there's the parts of the like fit out that are wearing through, and it's getting like that natural polish that happens from like use, rubbing away some of the aging, and it goes a bit more like brassy.
Shiny.
Shiny. But like that's quite a specific example and not very good like story about how we started.
I think it's a real story of how you started.
It's like quite humble beginnings.
Yeah, I think everyone starts off like that. Get on. Even with Ben and the Warringah studio, you guys, how much free labor did you do?
The house for free.
Yeah.
People are super grateful for that kind of stuff, though. Half the time.
And didn't you plant 1,000 trees, Gerard?
Yeah. Well, I've also done a ginormous amount of free labor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The piccolo as well. I know.
Probably it's not
takes.
sustainable, right?
Too many passion projects.
Well, we have a vision, and you push for it. Which is part of what gets us going. Get going in the morning.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Thomas? You about to say something?
No, I was just going to say, we're probably like the learning in the first 3 years was enormous, and we did do a lot of different projects and small ones, and then we got contacted by Richard for the Eastbourne house, and that was our kind of big break. The caveat there was it just had to be done extraordinarily quickly. So I think it was like 6 months from coming into the office to being on site, and that included a resource consent and building consent, obviously. But that gave us like the experience and the taste of doing higher end homes, and then it's kind of been like iterating from there with what feels like quite a hiatus of built work, but it's just the project's now taking longer to finish.
But you guys have been in a bunch of publications like Design and Local Project and the cover of the Financial Times, which is quite spectacular. And you've won a bunch of awards. Is that your kind of main strategy for marketing now? Is it kind of like, now that you've kind of got a couple of really successful projects, is it starting to speak for itself?
Like, yes and no. Like, I think like it's always good to push the work out there, and you never know where it lands and who picks it up. But we're relatively strategic around what work we're trying to get, and then it's like who do we need to meet to get that work.
Is that how you got on the cover of the Financial Times?
No, that was out of the blue.
Really? So cool.
That was out of the blue. But
how'd that happen?
we're actually contacted to the Jessica Bell, who wrote the article, contacted us about a piece for wallpaper, which I think we're still doing, but like they work a year in advance, so they're not publishing until early next year.
Oh, cool.
And then she said, and then like a few weeks later said, oh, there's this other piece in the Financial Times. Can you can we have a chat about it? So we did that. And then
good target market for you, I can imagine.
I think the coolest thing for us was just being like sitting alongside those other architects.
Yeah.
Architects that we like.
Herbst and who else was it? Peterson's.
Fair and
Hay. I mean, like, that's really cool and really impressive, I would say. Yeah. Nice work.
I think like it's probably like a balance between the work, and then Jessica Bell, I think she follows us on Instagram, so like there's
Instagram can be quite helpful, can't it?
Yeah, can be quite powerful tool. But like we get some business coaching.
Cool.
So like there is a bit of strategy kind of in the background.
When I look at you guys, you're like probably the most strategic office that I can see. I think like I've watched that strategy because, for those who don't know, me and Thomas were in the same class. But me and Thomas were in the same group in 5th year. So I've had a close eye on old Thomas for years. Always had a very nice aesthetic. But like right from day one, like I think the intention of putting out like beautiful work, beautiful renders, I guess based on the theory, you get the work you're seen doing. Correct me if I'm wrong. But seeing that sort of coming all the way through, and it seems very strategic, and I think it's incredibly clever, and it seems to start paying off. At what point did you start to look into the business coaching side of things? Because I think we come out of school and with no real knowledge on how to run a business. You work for somebody, then you go give it a go, and you're like, it's quite a bit to this.
Yeah, it's pretty key.
Not to answer your question with a question, but like, what do you like? What do you guys think about with your own businesses? Like, is it I feel like in architecture and maybe like the art world as well, trying to run a profitable business is like it's almost like some kind of selling out or compromise. Like something our business coach said to us is like, you kind of need, if you don't have profit in your business, like you're not
a business.
Not really.
Yeah, you're not going to be around.
That's what the point of a business is, to make money.
So the business coach, he came to us from like a client saying, hey, we like they had a digital they basically they build websites, but they also do some like graphic design. And I think when they started out, they had like this kind of before and after moment of getting a business coach who really just helped them with the business side of what they did. And it was just kind of basic stuff that they hadn't really been exposed to before, was my reading of it. And so I think, I'd say like
making sure you invoice all your hours or something. What sort of basic things are we giving the people?
I suspect it's more like strategy or planning, or
it's like a simple one would be like how many billable hours do you need to do a week to break even, or to have a certain target.
Keep track of your overheads.
And then,
I mean, this stuff's second nature to Ben, but not for the likes of myself.
Another one would be in terms of like supply and demand. Do you say, do you want to be a practice with? Do we want to be a practice with 3 people? And like good work? Or do we say yes to like all the projects that come our way and have like 6 staff, but like a portion of that work is like really challenging from a business perspective and probably like a work life satisfaction point of view? That's part of our strategy, is to like get good work that like maybe it like just ticks 3 boxes, which is like it's like exciting architecturally. The clients are good to work with, and then the other one would be like there's like realistic kind of like compensation, but like yeah.
And do they influence your kind of marketing strategy at all? One thing that's kind of noticeable with you guys is you do kind of use a lot of renders, I guess, to like capture your target audience, which is a great strategy and I think works really well, because especially for you guys, like it'd be very difficult to get everything that you're designing perhaps built, or like you were saying before, Tom, it would take a long period of time, and like the renders are just a way to kind of bring that forward a little bit.
Definitely. I think what we'd like to get to the point where you only see built work. Until then, the renders are it's a good way to communicate what we're working on, to then help push the flywheel, but also maybe demonstrate the ideas that we have within the practice. So and I think like also being quite flexible with like what clients need. So one of the projects on there is for a client who's lives overseas, but does significant work here. And so it's like an exercise of showing what we could do, and then that kind of generates a possibility of work, and then like opens the network up as well.
Yeah, and must help with that, the magazines and other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I remember there was the Australian old Dave Sharp. There was an episode I remember listening to maybe 6 months ago, but a practice that was quite young, and they splashed out a fair bit of cash on renders to get all that up there. And then I think in that episode that paid off quite well for that practice. Is that sort of the case with you guys? So you're sort of outsourcing your renders and
outsourcing them, and it's actually quite good. Like it closes the loop for us, because we can see the designs in a really realistic way. So like it's almost like an educational tool as well. So we can see how those ideas translate into what, like almost as close as you could get to real life. So how the light might operate, what does like that space feel like, or that proportion, that materiality.
Does that change your mind at all
Yes.
on renders? Gerard has never posted a render.
Yeah, I've gone the opposite approach of only showing built work. Like I think, like you guys, I've been very strict on strategy, but maybe in a slightly less helpful way for myself.
Too strict.
Maybe too strict in my process.
But now that
I've been enjoying the process.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, though, I clearly know what Seear-Budd Ross as a firm is all about, really. Whether that's through some of their built work or your renders or whatnot. But Gerard, I think I've seen a lot of your work behind the scenes, and like the front of your company does not show remotely that you're actually working on. So I don't know, man. I'm not convinced. I think I like the render strategy for sure.
Yeah, I've because me and Connor talked about this at length over the years, and that was sort of
he's also the worst person
to
ask, because he's just as bad as you are.
Yeah, we've built ourselves into like this little corner of obscurity. But yeah, like this is the benefit of life, isn't it? You go through things, and I am changing my mind as we go on. So I think might start cracking into renders a bit more as we go. So I think that projection, and I think now there's enough buildings that are believable as built outcomes.
Yeah, we definitely pivot between like wanting to be a bit obscure and then like out there. Yeah, it's something we discuss constantly. It's like how much effort do you put into like getting your name out there versus
and you're like 100%.
do people like discovering someone who's like a bit of an enigma?
Have you guys paid for marketing at all?
Didn't you do AdWords
We tried, we did test Google AdWords.
Yes.
for a week?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a call asking, oh, is this Warren Amani? I clicked on the wrong number.
Oh, good. Hey, it's putting you on the right spot then.
Yeah, but it was
So,
it was from a tradie asking for like a color spec.
No.
no, that's like, I still get phone calls from makers every week, I reckon. And I can see it's from Wellington, so I'm just like, straight away, I'm like, is this for makers?
Yeah.
I still get people asking me if you're at Makers.
Are you not at Makers
And so,
this episode is brought to you by Beer Architecture and Beer Construction.
Tom, you also do a lot of photography, and you guys also did some furniture design with, was it Woodwright, wasn't it? Which was amazing. Really, I don't know, I guess really similar to your architecture aesthetic. Super clean and yeah, really nice. Is that kind of all just fun passion projects as well, or does it kind of tie into the architecture at all?
It definitely ties into the architecture. Like, it's a bit of a challenge for us to design something of that scale, like much smaller. Chair, which is probably arguably one of the hardest things to design. And we learnt a lot through that process. But yeah, we're pretty keen to have the furniture as a like constant thread running through the business.
Do you specify it into your buildings? Brad's always trying to do.
We I don't know if you guys are the same, but sometimes you get sick of seeing your own stuff. So yeah, we probably went through like an initial phase where it was in a few things, but now, yeah, I don't know. Now we're not gravitating towards it as much.
Doesn't it mean you just need to design something?
Yeah,
something
you just
else?
design more chairs.
Yeah, you need more of a selection.
You can't one and done these things.
Yeah, I have thought about that, Gerard. Like, what would the revision 2 of like the chair we designed to be, and even for the table as well. I think there might be. It's just that next round of trying to make it 10% better or something.
Yeah,
that probably does align with our design philosophy. Is like not every project is trying to differentiate too much from something we've done in the past. It might actually borrow the ideas that we thought were good. Gerard, when you're doing your furniture, what's the thinking there? Is it do you see that as architecture, or is it just
100%? Definitely architecture. I've always thought it was like mini architecture, and I've also, the whole intention behind the workshop was like architecture research. So generally, I mean, you lose track of it from time to time, and then you circle back, but trying to explore ideas that you could upscale or downscale, or just playing with design. But I also have like a million ideas, so it's like there's just a million chairs I want to build. I had a business advisor person for a little bit, and they said I should stop making chairs because you catch up.
So I
and
sacked
you'd be
him.
like, yeah, you can't. Look for a new business advisor if you know.
Was he not saying there's good money in prototypes?
Yeah,
endless prototypes.
I have a habit of just having an idea that I'm trying to explore, irrespective of client or no client. So you always find yourself down in the workshop thinking about something, and then you're like, oh shit, I brought all these materials and now I've wasted 2 days of potential billable labor.
Yeah.
But you've satisfied your ideas.
Yeah. I find it very hard to regret these things.
Yeah.
Maybe my bank account will help me do that.
I don't know. Some of the ideas that you got coming out sound pretty interesting. I don't know if we could talk about those yet, though. Can we? Watch the space.
Watch the space.
So what's on the cards for Seear-Budd Ross? You guys flat out, or
We're busy enough. It's kind of I don't know if you guys are the same, but it's like if everything goes live, then you're way too busy and you need to hire more people, or if everything stops, then you're in trouble. So we're kind of we probably
Sounds about right.
yeah,
Always tethering that fine line.
yeah. But no, like we've got some really exciting stuff that we're working on at the moment, and then some like projects that have like long tails, like a heritage restoration, renovation, and remural, which is we've been working on for I think it's a few years now, but like that's only just on site, so that's still got a long
Cool.
road ahead of it.
At least it made it to site, that one.
Yeah.
It's positive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but yeah, no, we're feeling optimistic, and yeah, it seems like the market overall starts to rebound a bit. Like talking to a few architects, it's a little bit doom and gloom out there.
Yeah, it's funny times.
Yeah,
Very strange times.
yeah. How about
Bit flat at the moment, isn't it?
yeah? Is that the same like with the property side, Ben?
It's definitely flat with the property side. But yeah, I'm always optimistic. Hopefully it's kind of starting to creep up a little bit now. It feels better up here, but in Auckland, I'm not sure about. Wellington's always kind of lags a year or so behind. But yeah, I think things are creeping up. I'm trying to buy a house at the moment, and there's a lot of people trying to buy the same houses. There must be people out there purchasing.
I wonder if to a nice sort of sum up, I feel like a lot of us who start offices and are battling away in a 1 to 2 to 3 person team don't often see, or I don't know, you don't see the background or what anybody else is going through. So I wonder if you could like run through some of your sort of bigger tips that you've found through your process that kind of kept you going and kept the work coming or kept you excited about moving forward. Big question.
Yeah. Something I care a lot about is brand. So like not doing anything to jeopardize the brand. Like as soon as you start to jeopardize that, then your options I think become quite limited. So that's something that we've been like very careful of, and like we've also made our own mistakes in that regard that we've learned from. So like yeah, probably being like quite curated with what you show, investing in good photography. So yeah, makes a big difference.
Yeah, do you find there's like those approaches, there's a large dose of persistence that's required?
Yeah,
Which I feel pays off, but sometimes you really have to remind yourself what you're doing.
yeah. I think that's why like personally I've enjoyed having like there's two of us. So there is like you're kind of in the trenches together. Nice way to balance it out. What about you, James?
I think something that we've that's been like quite helpful for us is we catch up with maybe 3 or 4 architects that have their own companies and they're kind of like in their 60s. And they've been like really helpful for just like checking in on different questions that feel fresh to us, but they might have dealt with like 20 or 30 times. That's been quite helpful. And we probably like tried to seek out some of those people we didn't know before we started. We like sought them out and they were just generous with their time. So I think there's been a real benefit in that because maybe some of their advice has been in that like persistence kind of camp of just saying like if you can establish a brand that people see value like working with, then these other things kind of come, like good projects come, people want to pay you for your like skill set, I guess, in your work. So it's like, yeah, these chickens that like, I guess like I think we've maybe like a few years ago, we're just like light on work when like, I think there were a few others in that camp.
When the whole world was light on work.
Yeah. But I was like part of what we did was we used the time that we had time where we didn't have projects to work on. And so we did invest in we either over delivered on the projects that we had or like invested in like ideas. So like the furniture collaboration wasn't really about like money for us. It was about doing some like just trying to refine something and put as much work in as was required for us to be proud of it. Some of that kind of stuff. Everything didn't need to like, maybe to like an earlier conversation, didn't need to stack up financially, but it was like viewed as an investment in the future.
I think that's something I see in you guys, that you're happy to spend internal investment for the future gain. which I think everyone could learn from a little bit. Thanks for coming on, guys. It's been
Thank you so much.
Awesome watching you guys over the years, and I think it's going to be cool to see where you guys go.
For sure.
We're rooting for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. And yeah, must work with the podcast. It's bloody brilliant.
Thanks.
It's a bloody good podcast, isn't it?